Bienvenidos, worldwide fans of cinema. You got Jaime En Fuego here for Enfuegotainment for a special spoilerific discussion with all of you. Got to introduce my running buddies, though.
I'm CECIL LAIRD.
DERK HARRON.
Producer Dave.
Damn Rizzle, Producer Dave from The Horror Show. These are my Horror Show homies, and I am very thankful to have them moonlighting on this with me here at Enfuegotainment, my own personal channel. And today we're talking Solo. A Star Wars story. Solo.
So boring.
And so not as many Solo characters in there as I was thinking. We didn't get any Jabba. We didn't get any Boba Fett.
Oh, we got
one interesting
allusions
cameo.
to Jabba.
But, a little bit. Well,
some gangster on Tatooine.
Mention. But yeah, as a whole, I'm gonna go with the yawn factor that Cecil was mentioning. But all four of us have seen this film, and we're going to be, as I said, doing spoilers here, just giving a little bit of bueno, malo, and feo, some good, some bad, and some ugly. So I will start, I guess, and say, at times I found this movie entertaining. At times. There were certain beats in it where I was like, okay, that was a fun scene. I did like the little train, trying to hijack the stuff, when that whole, scheme went down, which is ultimately foiled and failed for them. And we saw some characters die, including Mr. Woody Harrelson's lady friend. But, and also a lot of people were down on the Alden Ehrenreich. I'm totally...
Alden Ehrenreich.
Yeah, that's the guy. So they had an extensive casting session.
Excuse me, Alden Ehrenreich!
An extensive casting trying to find somebody who was going to be the young Han Solo. Nobody can fill the shoes of Mr. Harrison Ford. It was one of the most iconic performances of anyone, let alone his own, story career. And so I thought the kid did pretty good at kind of making the role his own. But he didn't really divert too much, I mean, he was not as bad, I guess, as I was worried that he was going to be. So he was good. So there was a few sequences of action that I enjoyed, but yeah, I guess I'll save the rest of my thoughts for the other portions. But I'm going to toss it to somebody that I know liked the movie more than me and Cecil for the next one. Dave, what's some stuff you thought was good about this, man?
Well, I liked it in general, but I also liked the prequels, so you have to assume that I have poor taste in movies. But the thing is, I'm not a original... Like, I don't hold the originals up as the Holy Grail. Mm-hmm. I hold them up as the first of the series, of the saga. And to me, I always enjoy getting another story in the saga, even if it's lackluster. I wouldn't say that Han Solo was lackluster, but it was pretty close to lackluster for me. I still enjoyed probably 85% of the film, so I liked a lot of it. So, I was gonna say the Aldrin. I can't say his name. How do you say his name again?
Who?
Aldrin.
Alden Ehrenreich?
The guy who plays
That's
Han
that
Solo.
guy.
Excuse me, Alden Ehrenreich!
Yeah, thank you.
You might write again.
I was trying to set you up.
Swing and a hit.
He at times felt like he was doing an impersonation of Harrison Ford, and then at other times felt like he was just acting as a new character that we haven't seen before. Mm-hmm. So he had to blend a little bit of who he becomes, who is the Harrison Ford character, with who he was growing up on well,
doesn't end up as the Harrison Ford character.
No, not yet.
He's still a lot
not
younger,
yet,
though, and he had some of that swagger. In
How can he still be? Well, no,
yeah,
you're right. He still can. He technically can be a lot younger, but anyway.
So, but I really did like seeing his backstory. All it really did, though, the entire Solo movie was made me want to see Chewie's backstory. Yeah. Because he's got 190 years of backstory.
That was
how cool would it be? They drop a trailer for the Wookiee movie, and right at the end of the trailer, you see a green lightsaber light up, and it's Yoda on the Wookiee planet. 150 years previous before the Empire rose up. Mm-hmm. So it might be cool to bring some of the Jedi back and actually see Jedi in a fucking Jedi movie.
You want to watch a foreign Star Wars movie?
I'm just saying, I'd like to.
Where we get subtitles.
He's like, hey, don't worry, I can speak a little Wookiee. And when he was growling at him back and forth, that whole scene, actually.
So why did Han just abandon talking back to him then for the rest of the time we ever know him?
Because Chewie speaks English. Or he understands English.
Yeah, but why would he not... Well, okay. All right. So,
Because it's really hard to talk.
yeah, but it's way funnier.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chewie understands English presumably, and he just worked as the interpreter, so he shifted into that role pretty quickly. That he
But like I said, I mean, overall, I mean, I thought Donald Glover as Lando was great. I thought the robot was funny.
I did not like the robot.
I liked the fucking Millennium Falcon story. And
Relax, some of us have to give goods too.
I'm just saying those are some of the things that I really enjoyed, and I overall liked the film. There was less that I didn't like and more that I liked.
Cecil, what about you, man?
I'm like the inverse percentages of him. He liked 85% of it. I disliked 85% of it. The thing I liked the most was that it ended. No, truthfully, the thing I liked the most, and since we're spoiling, Darth Maul,
the cameo
showing up was
really
the happiest point for me, because I was like, not only that, but I was doing the mental math. As soon as I saw him, I'm like, okay, wait, where does this? Hang on, he's this old. Wait, so where does it put it? And then when they cut to a wider angle, you see the metal legs before he stands up, and I'm like, oh shit, yeah, he's back. All right, cool, he is alive. Sweet.
And to bring back Ray Park, right? That's
I found out actually. Well, it might have been Ray Park as the motion.
Yeah, but the voice.
But the voice was the guy from the cartoons, actually.
Yeah. He's great.
So yeah, seeing Darth Maul, and not only that, but seeing him pull like a new version of his dual-sided lightsaber that's got like the hilt that sort of comes out like an old sword sort of fucking handle and stuff.
I still haven't watched
handguard. Thank you.
I still haven't watched those Clone Wars episodes either, Dave.
I haven't ever watched any.
See,
of them.
I watched all of the Clone War episodes, and that's again like part of my appreciation of Star Wars comes from an overall perspective, like a Star Trek universe, where I would love to watch a Klingon movie. It's just Klingons or Ferengi or whatever.
Well, you're big on the foreign space movies. Klingons would be all goddamn subtitles too.
Well, you could do what they did in Hunt for Red October,
Let me guess.
which
You
is
want
what
to
they
see?
should do in
Ultimately,
every
you want to
movie.
see Wookiees versus Klingons is what we want from the
That
Dave
sounds
movie.
fun, actually.
That could be interesting.
He went away for a second. No,
because
be the flemmiest goddamn movie ever put out.
Anyway, my point. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that would be cool.
Yes. He concurs.
Distracted.
Yeah.
Dirky Dirk?
Well, I didn't have high expectations for this movie, and so when I went in, I didn't think it was going to be good, but I was pleasantly surprised. I really had a fun time with it. Especially seeing a lot of those scenes that they talked about with, like, Lando losing the Millennium Falcon in like a poker type of game. I thought that I love that.
Bosk or Bach?
Yeah,
he was cheating.
He got him. He got him. He cheated. Cheater. That's how you do it.
He's a scoundrel, though, even more so than Han.
And I really liked Woody's character too, because that's how I feel like after spoilers, because spoiler review, Han shooting him and shooting first.
Yeah,
like another...
Han learned how to. He's like, I learned one other lesson from you or whatever. Boom.
Yeah.
I was like, I even leaned over. I was like, he learned to shoot first.
Yeah, and those were some of the cool nods, the little Easter eggy type things for people who know that were.
I almost felt like the Woody Harrelson character was more Han. Than Han Solo in the movie.
He
modeled himself after that character.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know, there was just all these little moments where it was just like nods to what they had talked about that happened in the past, and seeing it now, and you're just like, wow, that's awesome.
And also
the Kessel Run.
Hang on. Wait till we get to the model.
I was going to say also that leads exactly to why Lando eventually betrays them in the future too, because he's put in that position where he's like,
I want my ship back, bitch.
He got here 10 minutes before you.
Remember when you took me for my Falcon?
Remember when my sex robot died?
Sex robot, we'll save that for the Feo, the ugly, I think.
Well, there was another thing that I wanted to say
pansexual.
too, was that like how it was kind of like this love story, but like you could see that Han was going to be jaded by love, because to find out that the love of your life is a part of the dark side.
But he hasn't yet, though.
Yeah,
That's the thing.
but
I wouldn't even say so much the dark side. I mean,
we would assume that at some point he's going to find out.
We need one more. As much as I'm loath to say it, we need another Solo movie to get him to where he needs to be before Star Wars.
I still feel like they were hoping
we need him to lose. We need him to lose her in the next movie. Like, she needs to almost be redeemed by the end of the movie, and then she needs to die, which is what calluses him towards everyone, including women.
I thought she was going to die.
See, I felt like we already got that.
I disagree.
I felt like we got that because
he still loves her.
Totally still loves her, man.
So he's not as calloused as he was in Star Wars automatically, as much as he loves her.
But the thing is that she did prove her love by allowing him to leave, because like she could have.
That's why he still loves her.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. He still loves her. He's not that guy in Star Wars.
But she ends up being a bad guy, and so
that's why he doesn't necessarily see her as a bad. And I don't even consider her a full bad guy. She made a dark decision, but she's more a shade of gray. She's more of a shade of gray.
Right.
And I honestly have to give Emilia Clarke a lot of credit, because I thought she was also one of the better parts of this movie.
I thought
her performance was quite good.
I liked that they let her kick some ass, because she, as the mother of dragons, she hardly ever moves more than like gliding a few feet across the floor while talking.
I know.
So letting her like be badass and do some fucking kick-ass action at the end, I was like, yeah, sweet, okay, cool. I know she was Sarah Connor.
It was better than her turn.
It was way better than her turn as Sarah Connor.
And Paul Bettany was really good with his little blades.
I found out actually that Paul Bettany replaced. That was supposed to be Omar coming from The Wire. He shot that whole part, but when Ron Howard came on board and they needed to reshoot some stuff, he wasn't available, so they put Paul Bettany in instead. Yeah. That was actually Omar from The Wire.
Yep, that's what it was originally.
I was like, no wonder, because that's why all of Paul Bettany's scenes were shot on that one set. Because they had him for like 2 days to fill in all of that shit. And that's just one of the main reasons I didn't like this. The production elements behind the scenes destroyed this movie.
And that's the
destroyed this movie.
We will get to that in the ugly, obviously. But
how are we not talking about the ugly on this movie already?
Well, we've given some hints at it.
I'm sorry, not a fan.
Yeah, so I mean, Bueno, if there's anything else that I can throw out, I mean, I did like the
movie. Can we throw out the movie?
I like the meeting of Han and Chewie. I did like the chemistry and whatever. I mean, Chewie doesn't really have to do too much beyond just,
I actually like that they gave him something. They help, they never talk about it in the original Star Wars films, but I like the idea that the Wookiees are scattered. Their planet's, overrun, and the Wookiees that are out there are scattered, and if he runs across them in the wild, or in whatever on the planet, he's gonna go help them, and they're gonna help him.
And he's presumably been eating people.
That was a weird race of Wookiees, by the way.
There's all the different races of Wookiees. There's the tree Wookiees.
Yeah, but they had the old 60s Planet of the Apes snouts.
And those are the mountain ones. I think those are the mountain ones. Yeah. And then they have the coastal ones.
Yeah, and Chewie's a forest one. Yeah. Blah blah blah. Whatever. They looked weird. I didn't like the design of the new Wookiees. They looked like fake masks.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I mean, unless anybody else has something good that they want to mention, did you guys touch all of your proverbial bases for the most part?
Yeah, I'll probably mention good while you guys are mentioning bad stuff.
Yeah, so if we're gonna jump in the mall, if we're gonna jump in the bad stuff, I definitely even from the beginning, I didn't feel really engaged. I did feel like the story itself, for the most part, at least, everything that they were doing was boring to me. They're like, oh, let's go steal this. Oh, that didn't work out that we stole this. Well, let's go to this other planet and try to steal this so that we can take this here to get it refined. And it seemed just very pedestrian. It was more so the character interactions that I found more interesting, and some of the dialogue and everything. But what they were given to do is what just was donuts for compelling for me. It was just, trope after trope of just things we've seen in sci-fi films before, and not just sci-fi films. I mean, this drew inspiration from mobster and western and things like that here and there, and it just I was more compelled by the characters than what the characters were doing, with the exception of the love story element, which I enjoyed. But I hated the subplot angle of the droid rebellion and all that stuff. That felt very heavy-handed, like Disney trying to inject a message into the movie. And
The robot stepping on the goddamn control console that only had like enough leg to do this as it was stepping, it's like, how the fuck did it get up there? Like
Another robot put it up there.
another robot literally walked by and was like, meet me. Like, why?
He went, hey little buddy, this is the first time I've ever been able to talk to you. You want to go up here?
sure.
I thought that scene was hilarious.
You guys need to watch the Clone Wars. That's the problem. See, because the Clone Wars was...
That's the problem?
Yeah, because...
I didn't like Solo because I didn't watch 4 years of a cartoon?
Yeah, because in the cartoon,
I see.
the universe, that's what the universe is the droids are part of the comedy of the universe.
No, they've always been.
They're the
right?
clowns.
They've
They're
always
droids
been
are the clowns.
But I mean,
Star
the
Wars.
original Star Wars film, George Lucas even said it. It's
Send
about
in
the droids. Right? It opens and ends with the damn droids.
It does.
And what are the prequels are all about the droids getting passed down to the next one. So, like...
That's fair, too.
So, the element of adding a droid, like, I loved the Rogue One droid, the...
K2SO.
K2SO was
that
dope.
movie, and
Dude,
honestly,
K2SO was
BB-8
dope.
is awesome.
BB-8's cool, too.
I feel like
Fair
this
enough.
didn't have a chance, though, with how much I loved Rogue One, and it just... I don't know.
Rogue One was an excellent example of what a Star Wars offshoot can be. Solo is an excellent example of what they should not be, in my opinion. I just feel like
You don't want the standalone stories?
It wasn't the character that we all know. It was a different kind of Han, and that's not why we were there. We didn't want to see lovesick Han. That's not the Han we know. Han is a rebel fucking smuggler.
Yeah.
Like, give us that guy.
Oh,
And
he
Well,
just
you
wasn't
got that
quite
guy.
there
You
yet.
got Woody
Yeah.
Harrelson that he ends up portraying.
Yeah,
in
but
the other
at
movies.
the end of this movie, Han has too much heart to be the Han that we see in Star Wars, in my
Well,
opinion.
because he's not the...
But
like
he
you
also
said,
has
though,
the
I mean,
heart in Star Wars. He
To
just
a
doesn't
degree,
show
but it's
it
not.
in the
It's not.
movie as much.
But he's not the same guy at the end of
Yeah.
Solo as he is in Star Wars.
No, he grows. He's a different person as a youth, and when he becomes an adult, which is what I think the film shows, is him becoming an adult. It's because he goes to war for 3 years. He loses his love. He does everything in his power to get back to her. You know, he joins up with the crew and starts robbing all these different things. He's just doing whatever he has to do to get back to her. That's why it's less important what he's doing. However, I will say this, as far as the plot goes, what people don't like about the prequels is the same thing that they're not liking about this, is that this is the real world stuff when you're inciting a rebellion against a large empire, is you steal their fuel, so you deny it to them, and you use it for yourself, so now you have fuel and they don't have fuel. That's like a double win, you know? And so that's part of war, when you don't have big ships to fly around and fight them ship to ship. Well, I gotta starve them. I gotta hit them where they're not, and taking one thing of fuel to fuel their entire fleet and destroying the rest of it is like, that would turn the tide of a war on a planet. So Clone Wars explains that. They show that a lot of times, that the tide of a war on a planet can turn on a simple act by rebels, or act by, you know, whatever, a single Jedi or whoever can make the difference. But
I mean, I understand the reasoning behind why this has to happen.
Yeah.
It's just it's the grunt work, it's
Yeah.
the pedestrian stuff, and I don't know. It
Well, they
just,
did a good job of making it pedestrian. That's for sure.
So, Dave, is there anything else?
He's hurting so bad every time I make a comment.
You are driving him
I
home.
am. I'm really fucking hitting it hard.
So I mean, you haven't said as much that you didn't think worked in it, Dave. I
well,
mean,
like I said, I wasn't the biggest fan of the love story.
Really?
Also, I thought that was like, I liked the idea more that he's more of a womanizer until he meets Carrie Fisher, and then he settles down, versus this whole, like, he pines for this girl for 3 years, can't think about anybody else.
No, he becomes the womanizer, I assume, when he goes and works for Jabba, and when he starts to see success, and when, he
and I don't
actually
mean
has to
womanizer
ship
in the bad way. I just mean, a slut or whatever. I don't know what you call it for a guy. What do you call it?
It's the white knighting. It's the white knighting
player.
of guys that weren't white knights necessarily.
Right.
Like, sure, he was a knight, but he wasn't a white knight, and now they're making him a white knight, and it doesn't work for me.
Well, I mean, he starts that way, but I still think this is a snapshot before the dark period for Han, where he gets embroiled in this. I mean, we see him as an aspiring person who wants to get involved in this business. We haven't seen him knee deep in the thick of it, and I'm assuming that's what would happen in the sequel that, based on the box office of this film, we're probably not going to see now because they left it wide open to explore that period a lot more so.
Yeah. I mean, my only other bad would be, I mean, I just thought some of the overall special effects weren't as, you know, mind-blowing as I was kind of like, I didn't see anything that I was like, whoa, that was really cool. I've never seen that before.
Rogue One did have that with the Star Destroyers running into each other.
Well, and also just like the daytime fighting and stuff like that, like we'd never seen except for like in icy, snowy conditions and a little bit on Tatooine, but like, you know, beach fighting and things like that.
Yeah, but that I felt like that was even just, it was too quick, and it was just like, hey, here's a flashback of when he was in a war, and you know, it's just him on a green screen, and none of it's, you know, it's all CGI. So I would expect more from Ron Howard as far as a unique sequence of action at some point. I mean, even the car chase at the beginning, the train sequence, everything felt like. Okay. The one cool thing was when the train goes around the edge of the thing. That's right from the Clone Wars, where the fucking train turns over on its side to take the corner. So you know, I mean, that was kind of cool.
Dirk, how about you, man? Anything you found bad about this you want to mention?
Well, the characters that were part of Woody Harrelson's group, like I felt like they were kind of killed off too quickly.
The
like
X-Force of Solo.
John Favreau's character was great.
I just thought that like the love of his life, like, you know, she sacrifices herself to allow the mission to well, they didn't accomplish the mission, but at least that they could stay alive. And so it was like unfortunate that we didn't get to see any more scenes with her. I kind of liked the guy with like the 4 arms too. I thought he was
that was
pretty
the one
fun,
John Favreau voiced.
And so there were. I guess that was the only problem that I had, was that those characters were just killed off too quickly. But
I can feel you there. I felt other characters didn't get enough screen time. Like Paul Bettany did not get enough screen time. I felt Childish Glover did not get enough screen time. He was good. For me, he wasn't as good as everybody was making him out to be. They're like, oh, he's the perfect Lando. He was good. He was damn good.
He was okay.
All them capes, man. I tell you.
He felt really bitchy to me, though. I was trying to hide from everything.
Yeah, and then they made him more so that way than I even remember Lando being in Empire.
Right, that's my problem.
Well, see, that's the thing, though, too, is
he's younger.
Again, he's younger. He's more immature. He hasn't felt the wrath of the Empire yet, and he hasn't turned against them like he does when he does. But I will say that, again, they didn't give him much meat.
No.
They let him fuck a robot. That was the big thing that we got to see about Lando's backstory, is that he loves a robot, and that's cool and all.
No, they didn't let him fuck a robot.
No, I know.
They let him want to fuck a robot.
You know,
whatever. But I'm saying that's not a cool thing for Lando's character. Other than, okay, that's an interesting part of his backstory, but like, what did he do that was cool in the film other than a couple of card games and then fly off on him? Yeah. You know,
I love that back and forth between him and Han, where he goes like, I hate you, and then he's like, I know.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
that was funny.
There were enough Easter eggs in it that some of the bad parts. It helped with some of the bad parts for me.
Yeah,
for me.
Well, if we're talking about robo-sex, sex robot, good segue into the Feo, the ugly. Everybody knows if you're into any of this kind of stuff. If you're into any of this kind of stuff, man, you know that this was a very troubled production. Lord and Miller were fired by Disney and Kathleen Kennedy, and they had already shot most of this movie. They were thinking there was too much improvisation going down, the tone just wasn't right, and so hence the arrival of Ron Howard, who you were talking about 85 and 15% just a little earlier. It's rumored that he reshot like 85% of this movie. And for someone that I love as much as him, at least older stuff, like, you know, Backdraft and Willow and things like that, I can't say I felt like he did this as much justice as I thought he could, but they should have held off and released it in December and given him more time instead of sticking at this May date. Star Wars has not been about May since Disney bought it. Rogue One came out in December. Episode 7 and 8 both came out in December.
And that's part of the fatigue. It was only 6 months ago that we had another Star Wars movie.
And the Star Wars movie that was ugly in the nerd rage that it induced in people, because a lot of diehard fans hated The Last Jedi. You know, so much.
I liked it a lot.
I liked it, but I didn't love it. You know, I did feel at times that it was somebody writing it didn't feel like a galaxy far, far away. Some of the dialogue, especially like the scene at the beginning with Oscar Isaac, messing with Donald Gleason's character, and just some of the jokes didn't feel like Star Wars jokes. They felt like, oh, it's modern people jokes. But aside from that,
that's true. I wonder if that cut exists somewhere.
The Lord and Miller cut.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't finish it, and it makes you even wonder if you'll see deleted scenes with like the guy
No.
who
I guarantee they won't
replaced
release
it. Yeah,
any
they're
of the
sweeping
scenes.
that completely under the rug. Those guys were given producer credits, and that's pretty much it. So that's the ugly for me. Dirk, ugly for you? Anything you thought was ugly in a way where it was so silly and ridiculous, or just something you thought was like, oh, that was beyond bad. That just didn't work for anything.
Well, the thing that bothered me was that the movie was very dark.
In appearance?
In appearance, like just cinematography wise, like sometimes I felt like I was watching silhouettes.
We watched it in
acted
3D,
out.
right? Did we watch
We
it?
did.
Yeah, we
There was
did.
just nothing for 3D in that movie.
Yeah, so I don't know. I didn't see it in 3D. I just saw it in like regular, and I just felt like a lot of the scenes in the Millennium Falcon, I thought like just everything just seemed so dark. You just see a lot of the switches and lights and stuff, but like everything was just so saturated in dark blues and black that like I was just like, man, I wish I could see a bit more of the texture of like what's happening around them and like the atmosphere that they're in. I felt like it didn't get bright until like towards the end, especially when they came from like that slummy planet that Han and the love interest came from. Like it just seemed so dark. I don't know if maybe it was just the movie theater, but I felt like they were kind of covering up too much, maybe because of like so much green screen that had to take place. That
In
they were
the
just,
rush time that Dave was talking about, with effects not looking as good, as maybe they could.
Well, that
because
actually
they were on
explains
such a-
why the special effects weren't up to par. Because it feels like they were halfway done.
Yeah, they just darkened everything to cover up, the bad.
I think it was like
animation.
Filmmaking 101.
Right.
Can it be darker? Yeah, we can make it darker.
Just make it darker.
I
covers
heard
up everything.
Steamroll through.
This scene's taking place at night now. We shot it at noon, but we're gonna put some filters on it. It's gonna take place under the stars.
Well, he steamrolled through filming this. I think he did all the reshoots, which equated to most of the movie in like 6 weeks. I think I was reading. They just plowed through it.
Wow.
And just did it, man.
So basically, the studio called him and said, "This is what
We
we
got a
want.
problem.
Save us!
We need someone who's just going to do what we want them to do."
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're our only hope.
Obi-Wan, that is brilliant.
And on that
Thank
note,
you. I'll take that.
that is the ugliest comment of the night.
Come on, that was gold.
Oh, that was funny. That was funny. David,
That was gold pressed platinum. Star Trek? Anybody?
No.
That's what them Ferengis love.
Yeah. Okay.
David, ugly for you besides something you might have mentioned already? I'm gonna let you finish it off with the humdinger
All right.
zinger.
This is going to be controversial at this table because I know you guys only like certain parts. I did not like her.
Amelia Clark? Really?
No, I didn't. I didn't enjoy her character, her story, or any of that stuff. Like, it felt like we weren't supposed to. They didn't show us a second of what led to her to make that decision to join the proverbial dark side.
They just hinted she's done some
Right,
bad
obviously
stuff.
she's done some bad stuff to stay alive, but show, don't tell. Show, don't tell. Good filmmaking is show, don't tell. So I had no connection to her, no sympathy for her, and I could care less. And when he's like, I'm still 3 years later, I'm fighting through this war to get back to her, I'm like, dude,
Yeah,
bro,
you're
just move
feeling
on.
sad.
There's a
Dude,
princess
bro.
waiting for you somewhere.
Your princess is in another castle, bro.
And even she's not going to be enough, so,
Yeah.
hey, it's going to happen.
She's gonna die.
Yeah, and you know what, Han? You're going to breed your own death.
Dun dun dun.
Wow.
So I think that-
spoilers.
I think
Lots of
that's-
spoilers reviews.
I think that's kind of like what we got now.
And yeah, that's the thing, because with the kind of money that this made, like I said, it was a big time disappointment. They were tracking it in like 120, 140 or something
Oh,
like
it's
that.
gonna make
and it just
plenty of
barely.
money.
Well, I mean, it's
I
in the
wouldn't
middle of
worry
this
about it.
very busy summer season, where I think that's another reason why it didn't do as good, besides the rush job, besides the bad buzz behind the scenes, is because it was sandwiched between like Deadpool 2 and like all of these other
What if?
blockbusters coming around right at the same time. It's much more competitive than it is in December when it's mostly like Oscar fare and family movies around Christmas and things like that.
What if it is literally it's the Feo, it's the ugly,
Mm-hmm.
it's the studio's like, this is shit. Get Ron Howard in. Let's reshoot 85% of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Let's cut the special effects budget in half. We're not going to spend what we say we're going to spend. Let's cut some of the marketing budget and we'll just put it out, now and throw it out there.
I heard they ended up spending with the reshoots over $300 million.
Oh no!
Yep,
Well,
Yeah.
that's true. They did.
they're always they got plenty of money to throw away.
They've
Come
got
on.
Disney money here. We're talking
got that Spider-Man money.
billions.
They could just write it off.
They got that
This is the
Iron
one
Man
movie
money
they
now.
They got that Infinity
They can
War
write
money.
off.
Yeah.
What?
That's true.
So-
But I know you got some ugly to mention, don't you?
I
you
do.
got some fake.
I got two. One of them is a little bit quick because it actually piggybacks on my Bueno, the Darth Maul thing. So I'm to believe that they're setting up Darth Maul as sort of a down-the-line big bad for Han Solo?
No, I was going to tell you this. In the Clone Wars, he's a criminal underlord. He's like Jabba the Hutt.
Oh, that
Okay,
was the
but
Crimson
still,
whatever, right?
they're setting him up to be the big guy behind everything in the Solo series. So what? Solo has to take down Darth Maul? How's that confrontation ever going to be interesting in the least bit? Like, Solo would have to get, like, a surprise shot off on him, and that's it. Like, there's no way he could hold a candle. There's no fight that would ever happen at the end of this movie series.
There was never any talk of a sequel to Solo.
but they were leaning
hoping.
towards it.
They signed him on for a 3-picture deal, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And same with Donald.
Emilia Clarke, too.
Yeah, same with Donald Gambino. So
But yeah, so that's one big issue when you think
Yeah.
about it, because Maul versus another guy with a lightsaber, sure. Maul versus Han Solo with a blaster, no.
Well, since I haven't watched the Clone Wars, though, Dave, he doesn't go back to the Emperor and the Empire. He just goes and does his own little side thing, kind of like Jabba's not really associated with the Empire. He's just a gangster.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go. It's a whole season of the Clone Wars, but he's found on a trash planet. He's lost his mind. His brother, who looks a lot like Darth Maul, is the male member of a species from a planet of the Night Witches. I think they're called the Night Witches or the Night Sisters or something like that. And
Sure.
they're also like one of their females is a apprentice for Dooku. Ventress. Her name is Ventress. Anyway, so he loses his mind. Her brother comes back. They want to have revenge against Obi-Wan for doing it to him. So they try to get Obi-Wan and they can't get him, and they eventually become sort of like criminal underlords. They're like criminal. They run their own little criminal.
But
empire.
Obi-Wan didn't even do it to him.
Cut him in half.
It was the other guy.
No,
It was Qui-Gon, right?
No,
Qui-Gon was killed.
Oh no, Qui-Gon was killed.
Yeah,
in that.
and then Obi-Wan killed him.
Okay, well, either way, let me move on to my other one.
Yeah, I still feel your thought though about the fact that
What's it
him
leading
being
to?
the
What's
antagonist
it leading
in a
to? It doesn't
sequel
make
is a
sense.
little
Well, they
weird.
say that they might do a Boba Fett movie.
They just announced that James
Yeah,
Mangold is
so-
writing and directing it.
Yeah, but I would imagine that would take place after Star Wars.
Well,
Or after
I just
Jedi.
assumed that
Wow.
he would be working with Jabba, and then like maybe we would see Han because Han would be also working for
Boba
Jabba.
is also throughout the Clone Wars. So his
I
story-
think the story after Jedi is where to go with Boba.
Well, if they
because he
did
does
that-
escape the fucking the Sarlacc pit,
yeah, well,
so.
that's considered Legends now. So, but they could do it. A lot of people thought they were going to do it. They thought he was going to.
Well, you never know what they're going to pick and choose from. If they brought Darth Maul back, they could easily bring back that part of the story. Anyway,
Yeah.
the other Mallow I want to mention
Bring us home.
is
Cecil, we're home.
no, the other one is the fact that I hated what they did with the Kessel Run. I thought that was so fucking dumb because the Kessel Run is set up as something that they make it sound like it's something that a lot of people have done, and Solo was the only one to do it in 12 parsecs. And it's like, it made it sound almost like a race, or at least like something that enough people have done that he broke some kind of record. This is literally, they just have to fly fast to keep the fuel cold. And it's like, no one's done it in less than 20 parsecs. And then they just fly, and it's like they talk while they're flying through this debris field, and then they're done with the Kessel Run. And it's like, why? Why would you waste it like that when the Kessel Run is something that they've leaned on, not only in the first trilogy, but they leaned on it again in Force Awakens, when he's like, 12 parsecs! And it's like,
I think
this is bullshit. This is a bullshit way to give us the Kessel Run.
I can feel you there. Yeah, you're actually raising good points. I didn't mind that beat or that scene, and I thought the creature was cool looking enough, I guess, a weird tentacled creature or whatever. But.
Well, they were working with like this explosive type of like gasoline, and so that's why I thought that built up like a lot of like tension, was that like they could explode. They didn't even know if it was really going to work or not.
Really?
And so that's how
Solo was going to explode when we know Star Wars is coming?
What I'm trying to say is that like that's how they were able to do it, was that because they were able to work with this like what was wrong with the fuel that like
it hadn't been refined.
But you don't see that as a problem. The way they made the run was because they had nitro or nitrous instead of him just being a really good pilot and doing it faster than everyone else. Like, that's a problem.
I think it was a combination of
ballsy,
things,
though.
but also I think when they set it up in the original Star Wars that he's like, I did the Kessel Run, I don't think anybody's impressed then either. Like, he says it to that guy at the end and he's not impressed. He's like, okay, great. Like, who cares? I think that's how people take it. Like, he brags about it because he thinks it's this great thing that he did. But really, you know.
I see Cecil's point, though, about the ugly nature of a prequel when Infinity War is another one where they kill off all these characters and you're supposed to be all sad, and yet you know they've already dated Spider-Man Homecoming too. So you're like, yeah, it just didn't add as much urgency to the scene.
It was the same thing where the trailer ends with Chewie hanging outside of a train. You're like, oh my god, is Chewie going to get knocked off the train and killed? Fuck no. Like, no. That's not a thing to end a trailer on.
Yeah, it denotes the peril a little bit.
I think there's one thing that's worse than that, though, was how he got his name.
I liked that. I didn't even catch
you don't have a last name. We'll just call you Han Solo.
So great. That is a George Lucas moment.
And yet
that is how George Lucas
I
named
just
him.
thought it was corny, man.
That is exactly how George Lucas named him.
And Lawrence Kasdan, the guy who wrote what people argue is the best Star Wars movie ever, Empire. I still prefer Jedi. I'm Dante, and you guys can be. Actually, no, excuse me, I'm Randall. Dante was the one who loved Empire better. But I was definitely expecting a lot more from him writing this script, especially with the buzz behind the scenes that this is one of the best Star Wars scripts ever written. A lot of industry people were saying that, and that's why you had to have Ron Howard come in, because of the fact that you couldn't deviate from the script too much because it was so damn good, and Kasdan was pissed. Him and his son were upset that they just weren't following it tit for tat. And not that I was expecting the world from this movie, but I just didn't expect it to just... I don't know.
Yeah.
Suck as much shit as it did?
Well, it was just very meh to me. It's just there. Did we really need a Han Solo movie at the end of the day? Probably not.
No, but we need a Wookiee movie now. Chewie.
Well, they want the Lando movie. Everyone's like,
actually, I want a Wookiee Netflix series.
What?
Now that could be great. Well, there is
with no subtitles. You'll have to learn Wookiee to watch the show.
And there will be
you won't be a true fan unless you watch.
Well, wouldn't that be like the Christmas special?
Oh god,
that's true. Apparently they didn't subtitle it right for the first 15 minutes.
That's ugly enough, and that's a good note for us to end it on. So this wasn't Feo. This wasn't Mala. Well, it's
it was
somewhere.
Both of those things.
It's like a 1, a 2, a 3, or a 4. I don't know. I'd say like
I think
out of 10, absolutely.
Oh, you're giving it a number?
Geez.
Yeah. No. Well, I've been trying to devise this ranking score. Feo was
what
1
number
star.
Star Wars movie is
Malo
it of all
is
time?
2 star.
Oh, for me, I like it.
No. I mean total. What's the total number of Star Wars with Solo being the last one? 12?
Oh, good point.
11?
With the
No,
there's
6,
8,
7,
and then we had 2 spin-offs. So this was the 10th one. Well,
So
actually,
this is the 10th? I'll give it a 5.
Clone Wars movie that was in theaters, and that is that's canon, and that's considered. It was released theatrically.
Yeah, I would.
So I guess
that
this
above
was the 11th one. Yeah.
I really like the Clone Wars.
I honestly, might say that I like the prequels more than this movie.
I like Revenge of the Sith better than this movie.
I
like Revenge of the Sith.
Revenge of the Sith is
Sounds like
better.
you make you like the prequels. I'm all about
Clone
it.
Wars might not be. I hated Clone Wars the most out of the trilogy of
But the cartoon's the
original.
best out of
Attack
everything.
of the Clones, yeah.
Or Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
Sorry, is that what it was called? Yeah,
That
I
was the
hated
worst.
Attack of the Clones.
That's the worst Star Wars movie ever made.
Yeah, absolutely. But this was the second.
Aside
worst.
from maybe the weird.
This was the second worst.
Aside from the ones on Endor with with the Muppets.
For all the love that this movie gets, it gets a lot of hate. I don't understand.
I actually
like
really,
all of it.
I actually really like Ewoks Battle for Endor. I don't like the other one, but Battle for Endor with the creepy witch I thought was actually fun. So, anyway, I want to thank these fine gentlemen that have joined me from the horror show for this. And in case you live under a rock and are watching this and don't know what we spend the predominance of our time doing, Cecil's going to fill you in real quick.
Yeah, that's real quickly. It's the Horror Show channel on YouTube, youtube.com/The Horror Show channel. Horror movie reviews, how-tos, comedy sketches, twice a week. Hail to Stephen King for now. I'm not sure if we might slow that back or not. We'll see.
Twice a week, twice a day.
Yes, twice a day.
Stephen King
News with
episodes.
booze, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
so go check it out.
Yes, Relentless Horror Variety channel, and Dave being a co-creator there. Producer Dave, thanks so much for being a part of this, man. Righteous and Dirk, it is always a pleasure having you step in with us and give some thoughts on the more nerd-tastic stuff that isn't scary. Thanks, man.
No problem.
Right on, dude. I've been Jaime En Fuego. You can find me on all social media sectors, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, here on the YouTubies, spelled just like you see it below. It's not Jamie.
Yep,
Porfa.
Tubies.
Yeah.
YouTubies.
on the YouTube.
My YouTube.
Anyway, thank you so very much, y'all.
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
And that's
Line of the night.
That's wonderful.
Hilarious.
Terrible.
So until next time, hasta luego, cinemigos. Gracias once again for joining, and I'm hopeful that we get to meet each other again sooner rather than later. Peace out!
There's not even a good solo line you can say I know. There's no sign off from the Solo movie.
I know.
Solo was a mediocre movie. I know.